live?
I cannot believe you said that in the middle of the countdown.
Dude, I couldn't see the countdown.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We've got all three of us here today, and we're feeling spicy.
Not sure how long,
because
though.
guess what's in the air and what's giving us an itch?
Football season.
College football's in the air, let me tell you. Now, we're still 8 weeks away, 7-8 weeks away. But I'm starting to get that itch. You know, a couple days ago, I'm starting to watch old games on YouTube and starting to get closer to fall camp and 10 other things, right? So our thought was, what better way to inch our way into season prep with leading off on who do we think are the 5 most impactful players on each of our teams. And this is going to be a really interesting exercise because not only will we have an insider perspective as a fan, we're going to get 2 outsider perspective for rivals and or other fans. And so this week, we're going to do Oklahoma. That wasn't just by choice. We flipped a coin, and Oklahoma beat Texas. And we're going to do one team each week to keep this as brief as possible because we don't want to have a 4-hour episode. That's going to be really annoying. But we're going to have some discussion. It's going to be really interesting. Okay. You boys doing good? Computer holding up?
I'm great.
Yep, for now.
I'm great.
We're feeling good, man. I'd say let us not waste any time. I'm ready with my list, and I am going to be heated about it.
Okay.
My number 1 overall impactful player for the Sooners in the 2023 season, I've gone textbook. It's Dillon Gabriel.
I mean, that's a pretty textbook pick.
Let me tell you why. Before I let you get into yours, let me tell you why.
Okay.
We saw last year, Dillon Gabriel was a solid quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
What caused a little bit of our downfall last year was his inconsistency in the mid to long range passes.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many balls last year where we had receivers running open or beautifully schemed plays that would have worked if he would have hit the receiver, right? Going into this year, I need to see more consistency in the deep ball and the medium throws. If we're able to do that, we'll be miles better on offense last year. We weren't even bad on offense last year, but if we're able to hit those throws with more consistency this year, our offense will take another step, which is super important for us to being not 6-7 next year or this coming year. But I have to ask, I'm curious, who did you think is most impactful?
Take a guess. Take a guess. Give me three guesses.
I don't even really want to guess because
Sure.
it might lead on my
to where you're thinking.
My
okay.
list.
So what the player I actually really like on Oklahoma, who I think could be the most impactful, one of the most fun names to say. Actually, before I get there, I have to say it. Most impactful player on the Oklahoma Sooners is going to be Davis Bevell. I have to say it. I have to say it.
Now I know you're not taking this seriously.
Okay. No. The best name. General Booty.
This is how I
Okay,
know
now
you didn't take this exercise seriously.
Okay.
Okay.
All joking aside, I think it's going to be Jalil Farouk.
Okay.
Reason being, he's got halfway decent hands. He can catch the ball, but it's the speed that I really like from Jalil Farouk more than anything. Hand him the ball, like on a sweep, or like what they did against Texas, kind of have him doing that wildcat play every now and then. Could work pretty effectively for the Sooners offense. And not just that, but in college, as we know, unlike the NFL, only some people are fast, not the NFL where everybody's fast. So I think his speed will pay huge dividends, and that's why I think he will be the most impactful player on the Sooners offense.
I like where your head's at, and without saying too much, he's on my list, but so I'll talk with him in a little bit, but I think you're absolutely spot on. He's going to be super impactful in one way or another, and we need him to be good for us to be successful long term. And that's about as far as I'll go without giving away my I mean, I kind of like had my list in order. You want me to skip ahead to it since it's already here, or should we just go with the flow?
Go with the flow.
Okay. I'll talk about him more in a little bit. My second, actually, before I do that, Chris, do you have any inputs from Oklahoma?
I'll be straight up. I did not do any research on any of the players, but I will say by position, I think the most important position will be quarterback.
So I disagree, but I don't want to give it away yet. I want to come back to that at the end.
Okay. I just think because of the way that.
Well, I'll say this: I don't disagree, but I want to make an argument for a couple other position groups.
Okay, but okay. I think that's top 5 though.
Oh, I agree, 100%. I mean, there's only so many position groups.
Top 3.
Top
3. Top 2.
My second most impactful player, and actually in this case players, for Oklahoma in the 2023 season is the combination of Rondell Bothroyd and Trace Ford, our two transfer defensive ends. One thing that really hindered us last season was our age. We were just incredibly young last year. But in addition to that, we didn't have really much continuity. Now, there's no hiding it. We brought in a ton of transfers this offseason, and I actually have a couple more on my list. But there's one thing about successful football teams a lot of the times, it's that they are old.
Mm-hmm.
And because old comes with man strength and
experience,
right? And with these two players in Bothroyd and Trace Ford, they are both 6th-year seniors, I'm pretty sure. Like, they're in their last year of eligibility. So they have played a ton of football. So they have a ton of experience, right?
Right.
And we've done really well in recruiting to have a bunch of young talent behind them at the edge position. But we need them as the old guys in the room to produce. And if they are able to produce, which last year Oklahoma really, really struggled to get pressure on the quarterback, especially in the second half of the season. We really need them to be able to get pressure on the quarterback to free up our linebackers. Brent Venables' system is highly dependent on his linebackers and the cheetah position, where if we're not getting pressure on the quarterback, the linebackers aren't going to be able to free flow and do what they do. So they're going to be super, super impactful with the production. If they have a lot of it, the defense will probably be pretty good. If we have none of it, we are going to suck once again.
I have to agree with everything you said. I think that's absolutely spot on. My next two players on Oklahoma are also on defense. I really like the secondary combo.
What is that noise?
I know that's choppy. I thought it was just.
It's Aiden.
Yeah, something's choppy with you, Aiden.
Are you tapping on something?
No.
No, it's something with his connection.
It's Aiden. I can't listen to that. That's annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, it went away. It went away. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh. Is he there?
Hello.
Hello.
He's mute.
He's not even muted. Aiden just stopped talking.
Aiden.
Now he's muted.
Now he's muted. We can't even hear you.
This is much more peaceful.
This is. It is. All right, continue. Oh, it was
Deconnect,
him that was talking
reconnect.
one.
Okay, so while he's figuring that out, he mentioned his next set of important players were our secondary in Billy Bowman and Woody Washington. One safety, one corner. I don't want to speak for him, but I like where his head's at. Our secondary is actually one of our strengths, I believe. More specifically, our safety group. We have a couple decent quarterbacks, but Woody Washington is by far the most experienced.
Was the biggest issue rushing the quarterback, like getting pressure on him, or was it on? What was the biggest issue on defense?
I feel as though our biggest issue on defense.
Let's try this again. Is that better?
That's better. Awesome.
Okay, so
JC's in the middle of saying something.
Okay.
So I'll let you go back to Billy Bowman and Woody Washington in a second. I was saying that Chris asked me what our biggest problem on defense was last year. I fully believe it was getting pressure on the quarterback because we started the season really hot, tackles for loss and sacks, and then it just absolutely disappeared as the season went on. And when we don't have pressure on the quarterback, that makes everybody else struggle. And so kind of going back to what I was saying is Woody Washington, the corner, Billy Bowman, a safety. I really think our secondary is one of our deepest positions on the team, which is really, really nice, and especially so our safety group. So I feel comfortable with that position group as long as the rest of the defense is able to do what they're supposed to do.
And what Billy Bowman has as an extra tool is he's up there in speed with Jalil Farouk. He's also quick, as well as good with his hands on defensive when he's playing a safety. So, but I think you're right. It kind of works as a tandem. If you're getting pressure on the quarterback, well, that's going to make the rest of the defense also excel and win and do great. So, and
I'm starting to notice a trend in your picks, and you're absolutely spot on. There is method to the madness that's on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love it.
I did my homework. unlike someone in the show.
Absolutely. Going to number 3. Some would argue he's in that secondary group. Some would argue he's in the linebacker group. Hell, some would argue he's in that edge group. Anybody that's familiar with Brent Venables' defense, do you know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about let me see.
I am talking about the cheetah position and Dasan McCullough, the number 1 rated transfer portal defensive player this cycle. He was a freshman All-American at Indiana, the highest rated player they ever recruited. He's transferred to Oklahoma and is the favorite to start at the cheetah position for Oklahoma. 6'4", 225, 230, and an absolute animal. Absolutely rapid, disgusting football player.
Yep.
That having that kind of body at cheetah, I mean, we saw what Isaiah Simmons did in the cheetah position at Clemson.
Mhm.
Dasan McCullough is a little bit taller and a little bit heavier, but just as quick. And nothing. I don't have anything against Deshaun White, who played the cheetah position for us mostly last year, but he is much more of a true will linebacker, off-ball linebacker, right? Cheetah is asked to do so much, from rush the passer to essentially play safety. Deshaun White did a solid job, but he better fits elsewhere. I truly feel Dasan McCullough is one of the best fits for that position in the country. I want to see him absolutely wreak havoc, and if he does, we're going to be pretty scary.
I think he certainly could. He certainly could wreak havoc. And you're right. He was in terms of Indiana, he was there. Was he the highest? Was he actually the highest defensive player they ever recruited?
He was the highest rated recruit, period, they've ever recruited.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I think that if he lives up to that hype, he'll be insane for the Oklahoma defense.
Not to mention his little brother is also a safety on the team now, too.
There you go.
But that's another.
All
right, who do you have in your number 3 spot?
So for number 3, I'm going back to offense. What is the best compliment a quarterback can have with a good receiving core?
A good
What complements
Chemistry.
wide receivers really well?
A running game?
Well, yeah, obviously.
Tight
but
ends.
what
oh
tight ends? I like Austin Stogner. He is
Welcome
a
back.
transfer. What?
Welcome back.
Yep.
You don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
What? Did I glitch
No.
out?
No, you don't know what I said. Welcome back, and you don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
Oh,
Austin Stogner started at Oklahoma.
nice.
He
So
played
he did-
2 or 3 seasons and transferred to South Carolina last year with Spencer Rattler.
and then he came back.
And now he came back.
and
Did he really?
Yes.
last year, I did actually take a screenshot of his stats. He averaged receiving 10.5 yards a catch.
Mhm.
So I think Stogner, based on that, could free up some space for Farouk, Andrell Anthony, Drake Stoops. I think having Stogner on the team and back on the team, correct me on that, could definitely help Dylan Gabriel in the passing game. And it could free up more.
This is one of those interesting situations where I absolutely agree. I didn't have a tight end on my list, but that's one thing I feel like we missed last year on offense was a true receiving threat at wide receiver. I don't get me wrong, I absolutely adored Braden Willis. He was awesome, but he was much more of a H-back blocking tight end type.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Stogner has really had an interesting story. Do you remember the end of the story at the first time he was at Oklahoma?
No.
So his freshman year, which I believe was 2019, because he came in the same class as Spencer Rattler, and his freshman year in 2019, 2020, he was an absolute beast. 2021, Lincoln Riley's last year at Oklahoma, he actually had an injury that kept him out. Well, while he was injured, he actually got a staph infection. So he was in the hospital for weeks, lost a ton of weight, and he was able to come back near the end of the season, but looked like a shell of himself. Just nowhere near where he was. And so after that season, Lincoln Riley left. Spencer Rattler left. A lot of the other players he had come into that class with. By the way, on paper, 2019 was Lincoln Riley's best class in Oklahoma, and almost none of them are here anymore. Just a side note. Absolute bust of a class. So last year he moved on and moved to a school that had more of a traditional pro style offense to get a little bit more experience of that, which I think was phenomenal. I love Shane Beamer, but his heart was at Oklahoma.
You've always said that.
His heart was at Oklahoma. So coming back, it will not hurt to have a true 6'6", 260 true receiving threat tight end. That's not going to be a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
But also he got way better as a blocker playing at South Carolina last year. So I absolutely love where your head's at with that pick.
Yep.
Sorry to steal your show, but
No.
I
Your
really
team.
love Austin Stogner.
Your team, you know more about them,
Yep.
but
I don't really know if he's gonna be able to return to the offensive threat he was his freshman sophomore year, but I feel like he's going to be a much more well-rounded player in his last year.
Yeah.
Well, alrighty then. Pick number 4. You've mentioned the two players I actually have put here. It's Jalil Farouk and Andrew Anthony. So I think the biggest question for Oklahoma coming into this season, I've heard it so many other places, is our receiving core. There is not that Marvin Mims is gone. We still have Drake Stoops. He's in his last year of eligibility, and I believe Jalil Farouk's in his junior year, so he would still have one more.
Farouk's a junior.
But you don't really have that star name we've had in past years, right?
Nope.
Hollywood Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Mims, etc. And there is a lot of young depth, but also unproven depth. So between a lack of experience and on paper, oddly enough, I've heard other people say they're not blown away by the amount of speed Oklahoma has in the wide receiver room.
Mhm.
Like we know Drake Stoops isn't fast. He's that crafty inside type. Jalil Farouk is fairly fast, but he's more of a Swiss Army Debo Samuel type that can do everything, which is not a bad thing to have on your team.
No.
And so
Not
that's
at all.
why they brought in Andrew Anthony, because he's kind of known as that straight line burner that can take the top off the defense. I mean, he had that one blowout game, he broke out against, I think it was in that Michigan State game. Remember when we went to the Texas Tech game in Norman, and Michigan was playing Michigan State the same day?
Yeah.
That was the game he broke out.
Okay.
But other than that, he never did a ton at Michigan. And so, knowing Jeff Levy's system, there is a lot of, one cut and go routes. And so on paper, he should thrive. But that was the one thing I need to see our receivers getting separation.
Yeah.
We had a lot of good receivers last year that can make good catches, but we weren't seeing a lot of separation. I'm hoping with the wide receiver coach change and a couple of guys we brought in, we're going to be able to see a little bit more separation with our receivers.
Yeah.
And those are the two guys that are going to have to lead the charge along with Drake Stoops. Like I fully expect to be those three are going to be the X, Y, and the Z on an opening day.
Yeah, and you kind of went into great explanation from where my thinking was about the wide receiver core, about how it lacks that star power. You know what I mean?
Factor, yeah.
Like you mentioned, Hollywood Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Mims. But it gives that opportunity for one of those guys like Farouk, Anthony, Stoops to open the door and say, hey, why not me? We're still here. So a prove it moment. And we'll see. Want to hear my next two, James?
Absolutely. Who's number 4 on your list?
So number 4, it's still on the offense. And actually, my next two are on offense. My last picks are still on offense. But in particular, I really like Javonte Barnes and Marcus. I like the running backs in general for Oklahoma. I like Marcus Major too. Javonte Barnes showed a bit of what he can potentially break out into as one of the nation's top running backs. We saw a little bit of that last year with some highlights. Would you agree, James?
100%.
And then I feel like Marcus Major is a good complement to Javonte Barnes. Different style running back, used in on different plays, but still very effective. So you're not just playing one type of running back. It'd be kind of like what I like to compare to what Elliott and Pollard were. Or, and from a college term, what
I'll do you
Bijan and
one better.
Yeah.
I'll do you one better. What? No, I'll do you one better. I feel as though Javonte Barnes is a complete running back. He could be a 3-down running back, right?
Yeah.
Marcus Major is that bigger body bruising running back. He's not Derrick Henry, but
Yeah.
he's closer to Josh Jacobs.
Okay, yeah,
And
that's better.
he can be that bigger running back, that bruiser that also, eats plays up when he needs to, right? He's not going to be 3-down back, but he can get you a couple tough plays if you need him.
Yeah.
There's
Like
there's
goal
one
line plays.
What?
Like goal line plays.
Yeah, he's not.
Goal line or third and short, fourth and short.
Yeah, he'll get you
Second
tough
and short,
yards
yeah.
if you need it. But he's also got some
Yeah.
speed. Don't get it twisted, right? Like he has like some Derrick Henry in him, but I would liken him much more to Josh Jacobs. Like he's tough, but he also has a little bit of go to him. But I feel like I'd be doing it a disservice if you didn't mention the other running back we've got on the roster. That's Gavin Sawchuk. His size is much closer to Javonte. He's a little bit smaller, but he can absolutely go. We saw that in the bowl game against Florida State. There's a couple plays, and you're just like, you're not going to catch him. He will absolutely go. Because he's a little bit smaller, he's not going to be that every down back. At least I don't expect him to be. That's what I expect Javonte Barnes to do. But if you're not careful, he will absolutely leave you behind.
Sure.
And that's why I really like our running back room, because we have that variety of running backs that have been at the school at least a year already.
Mm-hmm. Who else you got? But you like my thinking in terms of the running back core.
Yes, they will be
Cool.
important. We ran the ball really well last year. Eric Gray was really good. We also had good blocking. Like we're losing both our starting tackles this coming year, so they'll be important. They're not on my list, but they'll definitely be important, and we'll need good blocking because we also lost Braden Willis, who was a phenomenal blocker inside and outside. So our running game, I expect our running game to be good again. That's just the nature of Jeff Levy's system. He's going to run the ball. But I also like the combination and the variety of players we have available to us. I would also qualify them as one of our stronger position groups on the team.
I would agree.
All right. My fifth and final player. Single player this time, and you're going to think I'm joking, and I will assure you I am 100% not.
He's going to say Jackson Arnold.
The name in my head is Jackson Arnold, but let me tell you why. Okay? 2 reasons.
Wait,
2 reasons.
don't you
Okay?
have 2 quarterbacks on that list?
What?
Don't you have 2 quarterbacks on your list?
Yes, Dylan Gabriel's the number 1. He's our starter, and he needs to be better this year than he was. He was decent last year, but he needs to be better.
Yep.
Jackson Arnold is on my list. He's on the bottom of the list for a reason, because he's not going to start. Who knows? He might win the starting job. Who knows, right? He's not.
That scenario would be in place like if whenever the big when Texas and OU played last year and what was his name had to start.
So that's one reason. We have a second string quarterback, a backup quarterback that you would trust to the team, right? We knew going in, we had no
On paper.
confidence. On paper, we had no confidence in Davis Bevel. We had no confidence in General Booty. There was even people calling for Micah Bowens to go in the game. He was even dressed out.
Yeah.
I mean, our best offense in OU Texas was Wildcat.
The Wildcat with
Farouk and Braden Willis, right? Jackson Arnold, even though he's a true freshman, he is one of, if not the best true freshman quarterbacks in the country. And knowing that you have him as your backup will allow you to be a little bit, I don't want to say risky, but a little bit more aggressive with your play calls with Dylan Gabriel. We know Dylan Gabriel can run the ball. He can be mobile. He needs to be. This was never confirmed, but it felt like at times last year, Jeff Lebby and Brent Venables were conservative with how they called plays because they were worried that they didn't have a backup quarterback. Not only having confidence in a second string quarterback, knowing that backup plan is there, because here's the thing. If Dylan Gabriel gets hurt again, you play the rookie, you'll write this year off, but now he has experience going into next season. Cool. If he doesn't, he's still there, and he's going to be ready to go next year regardless, right? But knowing he's there, you feel more comfortable getting him reps and getting him experience. In case something happens, he can plug and play. He'll run the offense. He's actually probably more capable of running Jeff Lebby's offense than Dylan Gabriel, even though Dylan Gabriel's ran it 4 out of his 5 years in college football, right? The other place that I see it really, really valuable is, from all accounts that I've heard and seen out of spring ball and off-season workouts, is Jackson Arnold is absolutely legit, but also he is pushing Dylan Gabriel to be better. When you have that 5-star prospect behind you, you need to know, hey, I've got to produce or he's coming for my job, right? So having him there not only gives the staff more confidence to play aggressive with your quarterback, but it also encourages that quarterback to be better.
Agree. Totally agree. Totally agree. You know, you have that positive, what's the term? Like positive force of encouragement and reinforcement to do better and be better and motivate you to do better. Who I have as the last is kind of a tandem. You mentioned that Oklahoma lost, which they did. I'm blanking on their names, but 2 of the offensive linemen that made big names for themselves at Oklahoma. What were the names, James?
Oh my goodness. I can see them in my head.
Anyway,
I can see them in my head. They're gonna come to me. They're gonna come.
I like is who Oklahoma brought in to help replace was Walter Roos and Caleb Schaefer. I think Walter Roos is a senior, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly.
The tackles you're thinking of are Anton Harrison and Wanye Morris.
Yeah.
1st round pick and a 4th round pick, I believe. 5th
Something
round?
like that.
Yeah.
So
carry on.
Yeah,
Walter Rouse and Caleb Schaefer.
Yes. Both of them did fairly well. Walter Rouse did good at Stanford, and Caleb Schaefer did good at where was it? If I remember,
Miami of Ohio.
Miami, Ohio. Yeah. They did well, and I think their experience will help the Oklahoma offensive line. Might not be as good as it was, but it still helps. So I think having a good offensive line and a solid offensive line is first and foremost paramount. I think it's neck and neck to having a solid quarterback leading the team. You need to have.
Well, if you don't have an offensive line, what's the point in having any skill positions? As good as the running backs have been historically, they have ran behind some of the best offensive lines in NFL history and in college football history. So if you don't have an offensive line, I mean, you might as well just have like Archie Manning back there or somebody back there trying to run around, trying to make sure that they don't get hit. But
Yeah.
going back to the Jackson Arnold thing, like I think on paper it's definitely a lot better, but to me, I'd feel a lot more comfortable once I saw him in live action, looking how on paper he should look.
We'll definitely see more as the fall approaches. I definitely do expect him to get in this fall at some point.
Like a couple of those like kind of
I mean,
like
he'll get in the SMU game for sure.
Oh, fuck off. Dude, I really think you'll be surprised.
Come on. That was too easy. That was too easy.
It was easy. But,
And
hey,
and now with my luck, I'm gonna have to eat my words.
dude, if
That's why I
SMU
don't talk.
marches into Norman and beats you,
oh, he's not going to stop talking.
dude, I might get to see OU lose to two of my teams this year.
By the way,
Or none.
by the way,
Or the other way around. Knowing my luck.
by the way, the Texas Rangers are up 10-0.
We're talking football, sir.
Absolutely pounding on the Tigers.
Yeah, that doesn't mean we can't talk other sports.
So
Or
Real
bring up
quick,
other
going
sports.
back to offensive line.
Yeah.
I am on the same page with you that is going to be an important position group for a couple of reasons. One, Walter Rouse isn't healthy yet. He had surgery either right before he transferred or right after he transferred, and he missed most of spring ball. I believe he'll be healthy by the fall, but how many reps he's had as a team will be questionable. I'm expecting him to be one of our starting tackles. Tyler Guyton will be the other one. However they want to line him up. I imagine with a healthy Walter Rouse, he's at left tackle and Tyler Guyton's at right tackle. Caleb Schaefer, I'm not even sure he's going to start.
you don't think so?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm feeling some combination of Andrew Ram's going to be our center. I know that. And then some combination of Savion Byrd and Jacob Sexton and Caleb Schaefer. Jacob Sexton, I don't know if he's going to be healthy for the fall, or at least the start of the season. We'll see. He had a nasty knee surgery like right after the bowl game. So we'll see if he's ready. But it's going to be some combination of those three tackles for Sexton, Byrd, Schaefer, and actually McCade Matoyer. Two of those four are going to be starting, and they'll probably get rotated in and out. I tend to lean Sexton and Matoyer since were the most prepared. Like Matoyer's probably the incumbent, so he's most experienced. Sexton he's young, but he's got the most talent among that group. Savion Byrd is just nasty. Like he will maul you if you're not careful. He's just very inconsistent.
Yeah.
And then I like Caleb Schaefer because he's absolutely massive.
He's huge.
And so that's always very, very good to have on offensive line. The problem is the skill set. And I trust Bill Beadbo with my life, right? But there's only so much talent only takes you so far, right? And so that's where I'm not too sure. I mean, he could very well start. Who knows? It's not on the highest of my confidence list. And so offensive line is definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Really, really quick. I kind of want to so just to recap before I move on. My list was Dylan Gabriel, number 1, Bothroyd and Trace Floyd at number 2, Desan McCullough, number 3, Jalil Farouk and Andrew Anthony, number 4, and Jackson Arnold, number 5. And your list was
Jalil Farouk,
number 1,
Billy Bowman and Woody Washington,
secondary,
Stogner.
Boston Stogner,
Then I had
the running backs, Barnes and
Marcus
Major.
And then the offensive line.
Offensive lineman, Schaefer and Rouse.
Mhm.
I really like this exercise because we only overlapped with one player.
Yeah.
Which was, I love that because that could not happen with some other teams we do when we do the other teams. So that's absolutely fascinating, and I think we're spot on. Basically, we got our 10 players pretty much.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, those players are going to be the most impactful, but also the most influential. A lot of those players are older players that have been around a while. And when your leaders are performing, the rest of the team performs.
Yeah.
So we need the guys that have been around a while to produce, because when they produce, teams are good and younger players produce. So I think we hit the nail on the head. I absolutely love it, and I can't wait to do our next one. Are we doing
really?
before we finish this conversation? Are we doing Texas or Arkansas next week?
Texas
UT.
goes next.
Okay, we'll do Texas next week, and then we'll wrap up in Arkansas in 2 weeks.
And then SMU.
Going back to,
Let's do Cowboys too.
I'll let you have your little.
Why do we have to?
We'll save that for the NFL season. I'll let Aiden have his little spiel on SMU, but I want to return to Chris's conversation about position groups.
Okay.
Position groups, because I find this fascinating. We covered a bunch of different position groups with our players. Just really quickly, I think OU has an interesting dynamic this year, because I'm sure, as a lot of teams do, they have position groups that they absolutely love and feel like they're absolutely prepared for, and then others that are like,
what are we doing?
Yeah. When I think, for me, I'm not quite in a position where I'm ready to say, what the hell are you doing with that position group? I don't feel that way with any of them, but there are definitely some question marks I have with a couple, right?
Well,
I've made it apparent I love our running back group, and I love our safety group. We're going to be very, very good in those two positions.
Yeah.
That being said, on the other end of the ball, or the other end of the spectrum, corners make me a little nervous, because we've got Woody Washington and then who else? Right?
Billy Bowman.
He's a safety.
Oh, yeah, Woody Washington, and then I had it.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, throw any name out there, and it will be like, whoa, right? Who knows what's going to freaking happen? But, yeah, I mean, I have no freaking idea what's going on there. Like, you're not going to start Makari Vickers as a true freshman, and he's even a safety, right? Like, I'm going to struggle. What?
I was also going to say, I'd imagine you also have some question marks after the lack of pass rushing last year.
See, that's where I have an interesting dichotomy of it there, because I don't have a lot of confidence coming off of what happened last season. That being said, that position group is going to be completely different as a whole this year. Not only interior-wise, exterior. Because we brought in, I've already mentioned Trace Ford and Rondell Bothroyd. You can include Jacob Lacey in that conversation. That happened. We brought in, I think we signed like 7 or 8 defensive line prospects. I mean, PJ Adebaware is going to be an absolute beast, like disgusting edge. But we've also got a couple older road greats that have been in the system. What's his name? Jordan Kelly, and Isaiah Coe. They're going to be road greats up the middle. So, and there's a couple other JUCO players we brought in for interior defensive line. So I don't have a ton of confidence coming off of last season, but I trust Todd Bates, and I love the amount of volume and quality we've brought in over time. And
What do you call it? Cautious optimism?
Cautiously optimistic. You're absolutely spot on. For me, I would honestly have more questions about the offensive line than the defensive line. I like a lot of the pieces we have. I just have more question marks about. I would rather replace two defensive ends or edge rushers than replace both my tackles at the same time.
Because not
only are we replacing tackles, not only are we replacing our offensive tackles, we're replacing a first-round draft pick at left tackle and a top 4 round draft pick at right tackle. There's just so many question marks there.
Yeah. Well, typically, whenever you have, I was going to say you have a lot more movement whenever you have like your defensive line guys versus your offensive line guys. Your offensive line guys, those are the guys that are supposed to be there the entire game versus the defensive line is kind of in and out.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of goes away from any.
I have more cautious optimism about the defensive line than the offensive line. I'd say for me, my two biggest positive groups are probably safety and running back. Two of my biggest question marks are corner and offensive line. I might also, and then kind of
I would say receiver.
Kind of next.
Well, that positive.
That's where I was going. The next line for concern is receiver. I like a couple of the pieces, but there's just so many question marks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of uncertainty, like you said. No big name. There's no name there that makes you feel comfortable, like a Marvin Mims or a CeeDee Lamb or
where you
Hollywood
go into
Brown
the season and you say,
whoever.
"I know he's the guy.
He's going to make." Yeah, and that guy forces you to get double teams and forces everybody else to get open, so they have a.
Well, it's those of us that have been watching Oklahoma closely. We know Jalil Farouk,
positive and a negative.
Jalil Farouk can be that guy. He just hasn't shown it consistently. Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping to see this year is consistency. Because if he shows consistency, he can be a first-round draft pick. I mean, his pro comp could be Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
But I need to see it consistently, not only for his draft stock's sake, but also for our success sake.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I really enjoyed that.
That was fun.
I got to talk about Oklahoma for 45 minutes.
Now you get to talk about UT for 45 minutes next week.
And I'm going to get clowned for this because I can probably talk about Texas just as much as I can talk about Oklahoma.
Dude, the whole roster is insane.
That's why I feel like...
You know it is. You know it is.
All I'm saying is here's an interesting fact that I found a few days ago. Oklahoma has a higher blue chip ratio than Texas.
Huh.
You know what I mean by blue chip ratio?
Explain.
So the blue chip ratio is the percent of your roster that is blue chip prospects, which are consensus 4 and 5 star prospects, to your entire roster. In the last, I believe it's 15 to 20 years, not 15 to 20, 10 to 15 years, every team that's won the national championship had a blue chip ratio of 70% or better. OU is just over, and I'll have to find the exact thing because I'm just spitting stuff out. I remember this point. Oklahoma was just over 70%. I believe they're 71 or 72%, and Texas was just under at like 68%. So as much as on paper, Texas has those names and like players that people like, when it comes to like recruiting services, those players aren't thought of as highly as Oklahoma players. So yes, Texas has a bunch of fun players, but their blue chip ratio is below Oklahoma. So for everybody that talks shit about Oklahoma's roster,
hold on. But that's subjective.
I'll say this, and I've said this for years
mean
as well.
Anything.
The thing about Texas is that Texas has always been able to get players.
Save it for next week.
Like I said,
save it.
Just a little teaser.
Save it. Save the thought for next week. Let's leave it.
I'm going to forget about my thought in like 30 seconds.
Then write it down.
I already forgot. You know what?
That's the Marine brain. I'm glad you didn't hear that.
I'm not even like spoiling anything for next week.
Leave it about OU.
As we can tell, next week's going to get heated and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. I don't know if it's going to get heated, but it'll be a lot of fun.
It's going to be heated. It's going to be a lot of fun. and we're gonna have a lot of good discussion.
Yeah.
We've been going 50 minutes now. Anything you guys would like to end on? If not, I'm ready. I'll say we get out of here.
Rest in peace,
Yeah.
rest in peace, Ryan Mallett.
Thanks for Catalan, Chris.
Rest in peace, Ryan Mallett. He passed away 2 days ago.
Yeah.
then,
Rest in peace, Ryan Mallett.
Arkansas's basketball team just announced they're playing Duke in November. So
The Rangers are still
and the
doing
Rangers won.
The Rangers,
The Rangers
still haven't
won.
won.
By the way,
Jim Nill just won GM of the year.
I will say this
Yes.
before we leave. I saw something concerning on the Cowboys, because of course I have to mention experts are predicting us to have a 7 or 8 loss year going into this year.
Who cares about experts? So show up on the field. They also predicted
A
us to
7
win
or 8
Super
loss
Bowls
year.
that never went.
Yes.
Wait, you said hold on. You said the experts are predicting the Cowboys to have a 7 or 8 loss year.
Yes.
So we're gonna be 10-7, 9-8.
Yes.
That's only like 1 or 2 games worse than we were this year.
But still, it's going backwards. We need to go that way.
No. Sometimes you need to go
Anything-
backwards.
does
before you go
anything
forwards. They've always been
Surprise you with the Cowboys these
middle.
days?
in
No,
the middle.
but I think
what I
that
thought.
is concerning.
It's always concerning.
Yep.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. I'm tired of Cowboys downers. Deuces.
Downers. We're realists. JC and his
Getting off, Aiden?
JC and his downer have an ass.